Without further ado, I'm so excited to start our second leadership speaker series with Elise Jackson-Lamm. Now, over 15 years ago, Elise and a group of her friends came together and founded Yorba in the Spotlight. And now today she serves as our financial director and basically our main person to go through for everything. But Elise has also acted in several commercials, movies, TV shows, including Brian for Hire, I Married Who, Beautiful Dreamer, and I had to include it, Elise, my personal favorite, Burlesque. But if that's not enough, Elise is also an award-winning screenplay writer, just last year winning Best Screenplay at the LA Femme Film Festival. And her website, I did some research, her website tagline reads, "Always busy, never boring." And boy, is that true. So who better to teach us to make our dream a reality than Elise? So welcome, welcome. I am so excited to get started with you, Elise. Welcome.
Thank you, Katie Jo.
Yeah, of course. So let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start.
Yes.
You founded Yorba in the Spotlight, but did performing arts come to you earlier? When did your love for performing arts start?
So I was actually a dancer. I grew up doing tap, jazz, ballet, like 5-6 classes a week, all that jazz. And then when I was in I think I was 9 years old, so whatever grade that is, one of my friends was going to go to an audition at YLCLO. So it was the Yorba Linda Civic Light Opera when they were around. And I was supposed to hang out with her that day, and she was like, "Oh, you want to come with me?" And I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll try this, sure." So I went, we did Once Upon a Mattress, and I believe it was YLCLO's first youth program show. They'd been doing adult stuff before that. And I auditioned, I got the role of the jester. So if you guys are familiar with that, I had my own song on stage, like all by myself for my first time out. And it was a little nerve-wracking, but I just loved it. So from then on, I did a show every summer with them because I also played lots of sports. So I wasn't really available to do any shows during the year. But that kind of became my thing. I did a show every summer, and I hung out with my theater friends there. And I made really great friends and connections through my experience. A lot of you guys know that, doing a show, that's part of the joy of it. And I guess it really helped me to grow as a person, help grow my confidence. And I just fell in love with it.
Amazing. So then how did the idea of Spotlight form, and what really inspired you to go and start a company?
So YLCLO closed, and I think it was like the second to last show I did with them. It was an original show. Like the people who were directing, Wade Bradford was one of them. He wrote it, and the music and everything, and we performed it. And that was just really cool because it was, an original show, and no one's ever done that before. So they were actually performing it in Santa Clarita a couple years after we did it. I was at USC, I believe it was my freshman year they performed it. So a couple of my old castmates and I piled in the car, and we drove up to Santa Clarita to see it just for fun. And on the way back, we were kind of talking about how sad it was that YLCLO wasn't doing shows anymore. And actually that past summer, it was like the first summer they hadn't had a show in, I don't know, however many years. And some of our younger little friends that we grew up doing the shows with didn't have a show to do. And I always connected with, little 8-year-olds and stuff. Like I'd have a little buddy in a show. So that made me really sad to think about that. And we're driving around talking about, like, we should just put on a show. We're like, yeah, we should. Sure. Okay. So then we just kind of did.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, then what are some of those challenges? It can't possibly be that easy. Is it easy like that, or what?
It wasn't that easy. I mean, looking back, it feels like it was that easy, but there's a lot more that goes into making an official company, or you have to pay your taxes to the government. And actually, we're a nonprofit, so we have different rules with that. But you do have to incorporate. There's a lot of paperwork. You have to pick board members if you're a nonprofit. You have to have articles of incorporation, all this fun stuff. So luckily we did have all of you who know Andrea Fouts, who's Andrea Tibbs back then, her dad was really helpful and all that, and he was very familiar with all those things, so he walked us through it. We weren't just like teenagers trying to do it all on our own. But I guess nowadays you guys have the internet and like LegalZoom. We had the internet back then. Okay, I'm not that old, but it wasn't quite as widely accessed, easily accessed. So actually you probably could get a lot of stuff, a lot of information online if you don't have a person to go to for that kind of stuff. So anyways, we did that. We started planning for our first show a year out. So I was home from school that summer. A bunch of our other board members were home that summer. We started planning. We'd have meetings during the fall, and then we had auditions in like June that next summer.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a lot of planning. That's great. Oh my gosh. So, Spotlight was founded over 15 years ago, and so much has changed since then. It's come and it's evolved. How you, the last standing founding member, how do you oversee and make sure that we are still remaining true to Spotlight's core values and how you wanted the business to become one day?
It's funny because like we've already established, I started this with my friends. And it's something I really enjoy doing. And it's like, if you don't enjoy it, why are you doing it? So I think one of the main things that I try to do, that now Katie Jo, you try to do, is we try to find people like in our staff members that are going to maintain our brand. Like, we just want to have fun. We want people that actually enjoy working with children, because there are people that don't, and that's totally fine. But we just don't want those people to be in a situation where they have to work with children. Maybe that's not their place where they shine, Mm-hmm. And then finding people who get along really well with us, with who we currently have there. And then from then on, just trying to craft shows and classes that really help our performers grow. And have fun. And I think that's a big thing, is we want everyone to have fun, but also grow as people, grow their confidence, and grow their skills.
I totally agree. That's fantastic. So not only are you the founder of the company, but now you are all about the numbers. You are financial director. And so what does that entail? What goes into that in a nutshell? What does that even mean?
Financial director, this is all the stuff nobody really wants to do. However, I will say I get joy from it. Okay. Spreadsheets are my jam. Like, maybe it makes me weird. I grew up loving math. I was actually, when I went into undergrad, I was an aeronautical engineering major. I wanted to design, actually astronautical, I wanted to design spaceships. Okay. Then I was kind of like thinking of what that all entailed, and me in a cubicle my whole life, and that really wasn't for me. But being a financial director now kind of lets me take my love of math and spreadsheets and numbers, and you guys, I can't tell you how happy it makes me when I reconcile our accounts. I don't even know. We're moving on from that. But financial director keeps track of the budget, which is really important. So like I said, people don't really want to do this stuff for the most part, but it's really important stuff. If you have your own company, if you have, really your own life, personal life, but if you're acting in any capacity, if you're running a business in any capacity, it's important to know where your money is, how much money you have to spend, so that you don't go over budget. Because I will tell you, nothing will kill the joy in what you're doing more than worrying about running out of money or being in the hole or being in debt. So it's my job to make sure that doesn't happen.
She does a good job at it. Good, really good. Just like Katie Jo, we can't do that. So you do all of this today, and you have 3 little girls at home.
I do.
New one. Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
How do you find a work-life balance? And this really goes for anyone, not just having, you have more than one business. You have your little girls, but like everyone who has school and wants to keep performing. How do you maintain work and life and keep passionate?
It's tough. Always when you're at home, well, at least for me, my family takes priority. It just does. Like well, right now the baby is very dependent on me. And every time I have a baby, they're very dependent on mama for a good year. And I have 3, so it's like most of my life. I think it's a matter of, as Charna said last week, if for those of you who tuned in, community. She has a great community, someone who can grab the kids, pick them up if she can't. And I'm the same way. My mom, my husband, my dad, like everyone's there to pick up the slack if I can't be there to pick someone up. But I do think a really important part of the work-life balance is like being very conscious about carving out time for what you're trying to accomplish. So if that's, well, I guess the spotlight stuff, that's like my job. So like I sit at my desk and I do my spotlight stuff. But if I'm talking about some of my more creative things, like when I was still film acting and now when I'm writing screenplays, I have to be really conscious about when I sit down to write. Like I have to be like, okay, husband, his name is Chris, for anyone who doesn't know, I have to be like, Chris, you are responsible for the girls, you know, they need to be out of my hair for at least 2 to 3 hours. Like we're going to see how this goes. I really need to get this rewrite into my producer, or I really want to finish the screenplay for a deadline. So you just have to be very conscious about what you're doing and how you're spending your time, because it is super easy just to let it go by the wayside.
That's huge. That's huge. So kind of switching gears a little bit, you mentioned the screen acting. One look at your IMDb page, and I was just so over the moon. I'm like, Elise, talk more about this because I don't know if you do the same. It's so exciting. You've been in tons of films. Tell us about your favorite project you've worked on, and what was the biggest thing that you learned from it?
Okay. I like different projects for different reasons, but I guess the one that gave me the most like Hollywood film experience would have been Beautiful Dreamer, which was an indie film. It was a period piece, so you know me with my costumes. Like I loved that. It took place in the 1950s, and with that film, it was an indie film. There's different levels. There's like no budget indie films. This indie film had a budget, but it was not like a millions of dollars budget. So we had to shoot things. I think we shot in like 3 weeks plus another week of pickups. And in that time, the cast was just really great. We had a lot of fun on set in our trailers and stuff. We became like our own little family. But then afterwards, the film had a really great festival run. I think everyone's familiar with film festivals, probably the big ones. But there's also some really great smaller ones. So we got to be the opening film at the Temecula Film Festival, and they like rode us around in these old-fashioned cars and did this whole red carpet thing, and it was really cool and really sweet. I got to fly to the Cannes Film Festival in France, which was just once in a lifetime experience. There were just so many things about that trip that were amazing. Sundance, Sedona Film Festival, all these things. So that was really cool with that. And it also was actually my first big role, like in a film of that caliber where you had your own trailer and stuff. You weren't just like, you know, hanging out in the desert or something like some of the other films I did when I was starting out. But yeah, so it was a crazy experience just to have, you know, the close-ups, someone there touching up my makeup, like feeling a little bit like a celebrity. It was just really cool. And then my favorite commercial project was a Superbowl commercial for Samsung. And we shot it over 3 days, and it was like a huge dance party. For 3 days straight to the same song. So afterwards we were kind of like, I never need to hear this song again in my life. But it was just really fun. Like we shot a guy out of a cannon. The model Miranda Kerr, I think I'm saying that right. She was in it. She was riding a little bike, and we were like skipping along behind her. So it was just really cool, really neat experience.
That is so fun. Okay, so we all want to do that. Okay. So what are some things that we need to do to get to that level? Is there anything surprising that you were like, oh, I didn't know I needed to have that before I started film acting?
I don't think there's anything surprising other than you just need to start. I know it seems daunting, and it is a daunting industry, but you just need to take like small steps at a time. Like Anna says, do the next right thing, right? Like little pieces. So your first step would be to get headshots, good ones. I mean, you don't have to spend tons and tons of money, but just make sure you're not submitting something that looks super amateur, because you're going to be basically on a screen like you are right now with Zoom, where you're just like boop, 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 all these little boxes, and they look through and they're like, okay, that one and that one. Like, okay. So you just start with that. You sign up for your casting websites. If you get an agent, the ones that they'll want you on are Actors Access and LA Casting. They call Actors Access breakdowns if you get confused. So you want to be on those, and then just start submitting. This industry is really funny because they want you to have experience, they want you to have a reel, but like you can't get those things without booking jobs. It's a little bit like that to get into SAG as well, the Screen Actors Guild. Mm-hmm. So I would just say submit for anything you can. Student films are great. A lot of them will be union. I don't know about now with whatever restrictions are going to come along, but like I did films at USC and then at Chapman. I also went at UCLA, and they might be student films, but a lot of times they are very ambitious and they have access to great equipment. So you get some really good footage for your reel. So I think you just start there, you start building, and submit for what you can. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Did I answer that? Do you have any other questions about that?
Millions.
Okay.
I also wanted to say you've also dabbled in a little bit of voice acting. You're the lead character in the video game Twisted Hero. How is that different from acting on screen? And do you have to train differently to do voice acting?
It is surprisingly different. Like when I first did voiceover roles, I was just like, okay, well, it's like me acting. They're just like going to use the audio and just not use the video. But with that project in particular, I wasn't playing off of anybody, like you're in a scene and you're feeding off each other's energy. There was none of that. They're literally like a microphone, and I had a list of the lines I was supposed to say, like some of them without context. Just like okay, say this line. And I remember the first couple of takes of some of these lines, I thought I did great, like, okay, cool, let's move on. And I listened to it back, and it was like no energy, like nothing. So you kind of got to get into a mindset where instead of where I act with my hands or act with my face, you have to put that all like in your voice somehow. And I didn't do a ton of formal training for voiceover, but like you kind of learn by doing. At least I did, feeling it out, recording myself, just not looking at what I look like, but just listening to what I sounded like. I know posture and like your breathing, it all goes into account for that. But that was another really cool experience though, because then I got to play the game when it came out, and it was a trip. It was really cool.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So then your most recent endeavor is screenplay writing. And what interests you to start doing that? And what was your inspiration for that?
This actually takes me back to some advice for those of you looking to step into Hollywood in an acting capacity. It's important to have another creative outlet, because when I was in my heyday with it, I was auditioning multiple times a day sometime, and you get used to that. So when you hit a lull, or you're not going in a lot and you're not getting the chance to do scenes or express yourself creatively, it's important to have another outlet you can do that. So for me, my intro to screenwriting kind of came at a lull in my career, and I just kind of had this idea, working with kids and just seeing how fun and cute and goofy they are, of this kind of film that was a cross between the Goonies and Little Rascals, and like this little band of friends, like they each have their distinct personalities. And I just sat down and started doing it. So advice for any of you aspiring screenwriters, same thing with acting, just start. I didn't have any training with screenwriting. Now they will tell you in school, I've learned since, they follow a 3-act structure. And if you are stuck, it actually is really helpful to do that. So if you are interested in screenwriting, you find it interesting and something you want to pursue, I would say explore, learning more, taking classes in it. For me, luckily, my writing rhythm naturally has a 3-act structure, because I didn't learn about it until after I'd already written the screenplay, and then I had to look back. I'm like, okay, no, it's fine. I did it. So I just sat down. I started writing like 15 pages. I wrote this one scene of my first screenplay, which was called Mischief Makers. And, Mischief Makers. And I read it back and I was like, hey, this is pretty good. This is cute. I could totally see people digging this. So I'm going to see if I can make this a longer film version. And so I just kept writing. Some people you've seen probably in movies how they have like cards everywhere that you pin on a cork board, and that's like moments you want your story to hit. So my characters start out at the beginning. I need them to get from point A to point B, and then point B to point C, and then C to the end. For me personally, I dig a lot from my characters. Like I actually become my characters in my head. So I like to joke that I get to play all the characters instead of just one, which is why I love writing. But I have them play off each other and I just kind of see where they go. Sometimes they take me to surprising places. Sometimes I make them go to surprising places. Yeah, that's my best advice, is just to sit down and if you have an idea for something, just see how it plays out and see if you like it.
Love that. Do you have a favorite screenplay that you've written?
Oh, that's like picking a favorite child. You can't do
That's fair.
But
that's fair.
I will say, so my first screenplay, Mischief Makers, my husband couldn't believe this, but so I wrote that thing, I submitted it, and it ended up winning the International Family Film Festival right out of the gate. So that was really encouraging to keep at it. And there's lots of these competitions. You can just submit your stuff, you can get feedback from a lot of professionals, and I found them to be really informative.
That's cool. I like that. Wow, so successful. So you've done so much. You've created a company that is so special to not only everybody on this screen, but also all sorts of kids and students all over Orange County. How does it feel to now sit back and look at this lasting legacy that you've left and know that so many kids, hundreds of kids, are going to remember their experiences with your company for the rest of their life?
Well, it sounds amazing when you say it like that. But no, I think it's super special. I think what we've built is really special. My favorite memories are just watching the kids that I've known since they were little, even though I am totally behind the scenes and a lot of people don't even know who I am most of the time, but I see you, okay? And I watch these little 8-year-olds that have been with us forever, and then they grow up like Ron. Ron is on here, right? Yes. Ron, I remember you. You were my favorite little butterball 8-year-old dwarf. I'm remembering you as the grumpy dwarf or sleepy dwarf, something, a dwarf. But yeah, looking at the kids that start out with us so young and just seeing where their journeys take them, not even necessarily in the arts. I know there's people that become nurses. I can't even think. There's all different workplaces or careers, I should say. And it's just really cool to think that we have impacted them to become the people that they're going to be, to build their confidence and grow themselves to take that next step into what they want their lives to look like. So it is a really cool thing, and I'm obviously very happy we started it in that car. Whenever that was, 2002.
Oh my gosh! Wow! So boil it down. What is the biggest piece of advice for anyone who wants to bring a concept to reality, whether that be opening their own studio, making it into a movie, a commercial, writing a screenplay? What's that one biggest advice you have?
I think basically what I've already said is just to start. That is the number one thing I can say. I can't tell you how many people I know that have kind of put it to the side, like, I'll get to it. There's no better time to start than right now. Because first of all, you don't know if you'll like it. Second of all, you don't want to look back and regret that you didn't do it. And your life is probably only going to get more stressful as you add more things. You know, for those of you who are still young in high school, you're going to go to college, you're going to do all that. That's still a great time to experiment and start all this stuff. But then after that, you might have jobs or families or other obligations. So just start. If you have an idea for something, just do it. My second thing is to start small. Okay, so if any of you that are looking to start businesses or performing arts companies, you can start small. So don't think you have to have a ton of money. If you do, great, start big. If you can spend that money, go ahead. But you can definitely start small. Break off little pieces. For us, for Spotlight, we looked for our very first show. We didn't have a ton of money, so we looked for shows with low royalties, right? So it was like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but it was, you know, one that someone had written and uploaded to this little website, and the royalties were not expensive at all. We found a small theater, and we used the community center as our rehearsal space. All of those were the lowest cost options at the time. If you're looking to do acting, do like I said, where you take on the smaller projects, build up your experience, and then see where you can get it from there. Mm-hmm. And then screenwriting, I think I already covered that, right? You just start, and if you have an idea, you should just run with it. One thing I do want to say though, for all of these things, you need to surround yourself with people that support you, with a support system, with people that are going to lift you up if you're down, especially you film actors. The film industry is really fun, and I've been really blessed that I had a lot of really cool opportunities with that. I've said though, there were lulls in the career. You go on, I said I was going on, 3 auditions a day sometimes. Maybe one week I didn't book any of those. Like, it's a lot of rejection. You have to find a way to mentally be okay with that. And if you're starting to feel down, you need those people that are going to lift you up. For your businesses, have people you can go to ask advice from, mentors. And even in acting or screenwriting, mentors, as many people as you can get on your side. I mean, you'd be blessed to have as many people on your side as possible.
Oh, that's so major. That's so major. Thank you. I have so many student submitted questions, so I'm going to kind of bounce around with some of these that they submitted, and then we'll open it up to anyone. So if you have any questions, start thinking of those now. I have one submitted by Josh Snyder, who is on here. He asked, what is one of the most challenging things you faced in your career, and how did you overcome it?
What were we talking? Well, okay, I'll just different ones. Mm-hmm. So a challenge that we faced with opening Spotlight was our age. It's kind of funny because things are like reverse and everyone wants you to be young. But in business, everyone wants you to be experienced and older. Mm-hmm. So when we started, we had a lot of people looking at us like, we were just kids. They didn't really need to pay any attention to us. And I remember we tried to hire people. We tried to overcome that by hiring experienced people. And we reached out to some people that we had worked with when we were younger in YLCLO, like to get a music director. And I remember this person, I won't say who it is, but they told us that, well, I'm never going to be able to look at you and not think of you as kids. Like, that was their response when we were like, we want to hire you and pay you money. So that was kind of disheartening, and that was a big obstacle we had to overcome. For acting, Oh, challenges. There's challenges in that industry, I will say. I think for me personally, Josh, this won't apply to you because you're a male, but I, as a female in that industry, um, there are expectations on you. There's expectations on males too, though. They're just different than what I've experienced. But I will never forget this meeting with a manager that I had. And I was really excited to meet this woman and have her bring me on as a client. And she had me come into her office. We had this like half-hour really great meeting. When she first saw me, when I came in, she looked at my resume and she's like, "Oh, that's right, you're the educated one," because I have a couple degrees, and those are all on my resume. So I was like, "Yeah, that's right, yes I am, let's talk about that." Okay, we did. Well, it got to the end and she looked at me and she asked me how I felt about what my comfort level was with the amount of skin I was going to show. If I could put that nicely for you all. And I said, well, none. No, that I'm not comfortable with that. Great for the people who are, but that's just not me. Like, I would be a disaster in any of those roles, and no one would want me anyway. And she looked at me and she said, "Well, there's like 20 other girls behind you who will do that. So what good are you to me?" And this was like after we'd had this great conversation, and and that was the end of our meeting. So I remember just going out to my car, just being really upset and like calling my mom, my support person, and talking me off the ledge. But I don't know, that moment in my career just really sticks with me. Because there are expectations like that. And I think the way I overcame that one was just to talk to my support person, but also to realize that that was not the manager for me. She was not going to be submitting me to the roles I wanted to do. And I'm not comfortable with that kind of work. And if that impedes my career, then I'm fine with that. So I think it's just a matter of staying mentally strong in the acting world for that. For screenwriting, I didn't really have any, I haven't come up, well, no, I haven't had any personal stories like that because they're just reading my words. They don't really care what I look like. But I will say there are barriers to entry in the screenwriting world in that so many people have experienced plagiarism and stuff now that all the studios are very hyper aware of what they read. So it's really hard to get your stuff in front of someone unless you know someone or they ask you, which is why I then applied to festivals. So I have these awards that kind of give me a little foot in the door with them. So there are ways, but I guess those are the challenges I have faced in all three of those fields.
That's so great. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you spoke on that because that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about is how the challenges affect your work, and especially being a female in the industry, how difficult that is. So thank you for that. I think we're going to open up to the audience. I feel so funny when I say that. The audience, does anyone have a question for Elise about literally anything, whether that be a completely different dream that you're trying to make become a reality or something about the studio, anything? We are an open book. I have a couple more submitted questions, but I wanted to have a moment to open it up. Oh, Bert. Yes, let me unmute you here. There you are.
I'm unmuted. Okay. Hi, Elise.
Hi, Bert.
You're gorgeous. Perfect.
Oh, thank you.
So, I mean, I understand this industry. I mean, this life, this world gets difficult at times. And, growing up, my pressure was trying to fit in, worrying about what other people were thinking about me. What did you do growing up? Like, what was your go-to? I know you have your support system, but what did you do to fight through that? I mean, entrepreneur, female, powerful, it's just amazing to hear your story. But what advice do you give the young people who they just don't understand it because life is so new to them still? Like, how do you even give advice to someone like that?
I don't know. If I'm giving advice to the young people, I would say do everything you can right now because, like, I mean, Bert and Katie Jo, you guys know, we can't really just go be in a show right now. Like, we have all these other obligations.
Right.
So, be in your shows. But for me growing up, I always took on leadership positions. I was on ASB. I played basketball and volleyball and track and did all that as well. So I think just finding what makes you happy, being a well-rounded person, and then try to find out how we could rise all together, I guess, and motivate to achieve whatever goal we're going after, whether that's like going to CIF or putting on a show, any of that.
Awesome. Does anyone else have a question? Oh, Jenny, wow. Ooh, yay, I love it.
Jenny!
I want to know what is, probably have to say maybe your top 3 like favorite shows Spotlight has produced, whether it's like your favorite, this is my favorite one we did overall, and like I did costumes for this one and they were my favorite to put together. This is what I want to know.
Okay. What jumps out right off the bat is Newsies. I had a lot of fun with Newsies. I was also very pregnant, so I'm really surprised that that's one that's jumping out. But I had a lot of fun with that one. Definitely picking out all the costumes, and it just turned out to be such an amazing show in general. I know it's like a Spotlight favorite now, Sideshow, just because it was so different, and it had like a pretty awesome pianist playing along there. Yeah, I loved that one because it was just something we hadn't really done. And I also loved when we did Les Mis. I don't know if any of you were here for that. Oh, I'm the last one standing.
Were you?
But Les Mis was really cool. It was a really special one, and we had a lot of really fun actors that had grown up with us for a long time in that one. I'm gonna add one more though. So we produced the show for Travis Ranch. We've done it for years. And what one was it? I think it was Seussical. We did Seussical for them. And I will never forget this. There was one of the girls that was like a bird girl or something. She was sick. Or no, it was a sour kangaroo. She was sick and she couldn't make it to a show. And so Andrea was directing that one, and she picked this girl that was a bird girl, like, okay, you can be the sour kangaroo. And like, it made this girl's life. Like, it was the first lead role she ever had. Like, she was so excited, she was almost in tears, and it just really touched me. It's one of those moments where you're like, well, this is why we do this. Is so that these kids can have those moments like that where they get their first lead. And I was so proud of her because she just stepped up and owned that role. Like, we literally were like day of show that this happened. So that was really special.
Wow.
Thank you.
I love that. I love it. So fun. Well, let me jump to, does anyone else have any more questions? Please, come one, come all. Well, let me do a submitted one, and then if you think of anything, we have time. So let's see. Evan Dadant. He's submitted, what is your favorite project you've ever worked on?
Oh. Like film, I'm guessing?
Anything. All of them.
All of them. Okay, well, I said Beautiful Dreamer and that Samsung commercial were like super fun, but I'm gonna put this one out there. So I had these teeny tiny roles, like teeny, featured in Burlesque, Katie Jo's favorite, and a movie called Lions for Lambs. Lions for Lambs was directed by Robert Redford, and I was on that shoot for 3 days, and we were in I forget what college we were actually filming at, but we were in a college lecture hall. And I was fortunate enough to be placed for 3 days, like right next to Robert Redford. And I was just like, every day on set, I was so excited. And he was super cool. And he like chatted away with me the whole time. So my favorite memory with that was he asked me what book I was reading at the time. Like, what book? Because this is Robert Redford. Of course, it's going to ask some like amazing question like that. And I just couldn't lie to the man. And I was like, I'm reading Harry Potter. And I was like, I really wish I had a more like, I don't know, different answer, but I was like, Harry Potter. And he was totally like, oh, I love Harry Potter. And it was amazing. So it's kind of funny because for those of you trying to pursue film, and I'm saying take those tiny roles, here this was like a nothing role. It was basically a paycheck. But it is one of my fondest memories. And then for you, Katie Jo, in burlesque, I was on that for 3 days, and I did get to sit on a stage with Cher across from me for those 3 days, and it was everything you thought it would be.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I love it. Do we have any more questions from our audience? Oh, Emma Alberto. Goodness gracious. Hello.
Okay, hello.
Hi, Emma.
So obviously you've done a lot, like you've been very successful. But I just want to ask if there was one, like when you were younger, or even starting it, like was there one thing that you wanted to do with your life? Like, do you have like a vision and that changed, or like what did you want to do exactly?
So it's kind of funny. As I said, when I was growing up, I kind of just did everything, which is kind of funny because that's what my life is now, right? I just kind of do lots of things. But when I went into college, I wanted to be an astronautical engineer, like I said, and work for NASA building spaceships, which I know is very Katie Jo, your face in this thing is, I know it's very surprising, very surprising. I really, really loved that. I was like all about that. But I started, as I said, picturing myself actually being in that job, in that industry. And I also knew that I wanted a family, and I wanted to be able to give my kids the kind of support that I had, with my mom coming to all my things. I wanted to be there, and that kind of job just wasn't going to be as flexible for me. So then I started looking into other things. I'd already started Spotlight at this point, and I was kind of like, well, this seems to be taking off and doing well, so maybe I should learn a little bit more about the behind the scenes of theater. So I did a theater major, not acting theater, just theater in general. So I got to learn about all aspects of it, which I really found to be fascinating. And then I added a broadcast journalism major because I have to be so extra and I just have to double major in everything. Broadcast journalism, which was funny, when Charna gave her talk last week, she said how she pursued broadcast journalism, and then when it came down to it, applying for the jobs, you end up having to go to tiny little towns and you have to start at the bottom. And I totally get that. It's just something I didn't even think of. So I ended up not pursuing that. I did work at KTLA for a little bit, and that was really fun. It was really early, and I am not a morning person. I think I had to get to KTLA at I had to be there at 5, so I had to be up anyway. It was a really good experience, but it was one of those ones where I figured out it really wasn't for me. So that's actually a really good point, Emma. If you have something you think you're interested in, an internship is great. If you can shadow someone, if you could volunteer just to see what the day-to-day life is like for that kind of job, so you're not bouncing around between majors when you're in college like me, I think that'd be super beneficial. But really, I think the things that I do now just kind of found me, like with Spotlight, starting it in a car, then kind of growing my love for it and making a career out of it that way, and kind of molding it into the life I wanted for myself. Being able to do my own hours, being able to go on auditions if I wanted to. Because in the beginning, actually, with Spotlight, I was doing the choreography, but I couldn't commit to being at rehearsals when I might possibly get a call to go to LA. So just being mindful of the things you want for yourself and in your life, and then actually looking at how those ideas will fit into that life you want, I think would be a really smart thing to do. Did I answer that? Was that answered?
Yeah, no, that was perfect. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Emma. Is there any other audience questions? Oh, Evan Daynant. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me unmute you.
Okay, so
Hi.
hello. So obviously you've done a lot of work at Spotlight and worked on a lot of shows. Was there one particular show that stressed you out the most, that you had so much to do that you were overwhelmed?
Oh. Well, see, Newsies comes to mind again because there were just so many dang kids in that, and also I was pregnant. So that's just a whole other thing. I think, the ones that have stressed me out. I just try to find the joy in all of them, Evan. But I don't think there's been one that's like really stressed me out so much, except for some of the ones where we've had like earthquakes. We had All Shook Up. When we did All Shook Up, there was a giant earthquake in the middle of our run. And like Andrea's husband, Derek, and John Infante, for those of you who know him, like shielded me, like guided me under a table. So that was stressful. And then the building cracked and we had to like get everyone out of the theater and bring them back. Oh my gosh, it was just a whole thing. So that was very stressful. But I think in terms of my stuff I do show to show, like there hasn't really been one that stressed me out costume wise more than the other. The Travis Ranch shows, because they sometimes have 300 kids in their shows, those are stressful because there's the sheer mass of the amount of bodies I have to costume is kind of crazy.
Yeah, awesome. Good question. Any other questions? I want to make sure that I don't miss anyone. I have a question.
Okay.
It's the best one to end on. What is the funniest moment you've ever had, whether that be seeing someone else do something on stage, something backstage behind the scenes at Spotlight? When have you just busted a gut?
Oh my gosh.
I put you on the spot, but it's my favorite question.
I know. I don't know. Oh, I wasn't prepared for this.
I know, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let me think. Well, there's been lots of instances where people like fall off things or I don't know. I can think of one for me personally, like not a small show, me personally.
Sure, why not?
So I was in a musical version. I was in Midsummer Night's Dream, but I was also in a musical version of it. And I was Titania, and my Oberon like danced with me and twirled me around, and he dipped me. He dropped me, like in a performance, in the middle of the stage, dropped. Like I was all la 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 la, and I'm like the queen of the fairies, and like bam on the floor. And I just like got up and was like, well, I guess we'll have to work on that, won't we? I don't know, but I was dying. I was like so mad at him, but now I look back and it's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Another one, I was in an original show called Born to Ride the Waves. And it was a surfing show, you can imagine. And I was up top, like I had to sing. I had to hit this high note at the end of a song. I was in a bathing suit on stage, standing on top of a surfboard that the guys picked up. So I had two guys holding me up, standing on this surfboard, and one of them bobbled, and I like lost my balance and had to jump off. I did not fall on my face, thank goodness, but it was like very not graceful. And it was this moment I was supposed to be like, I can be a surfer too, and it was really embarrassing. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? The most embarrassing moments end up being the most funny later.
That's true. That's very true.
So true. All right, last call. Are there any questions? Anyone have something that they're trying to make into reality, need help with it? Any going once, going twice? Oh, sold to Carson. Okay.
Carson.
Get you unmuted here. Help me, Carson. Maybe you need to. Here we go.
Okay. Hi.
Hey, Carson.
So you said that it's to get into screenwriting, it's as easy as just starting, but I feel like you're lying to us. What's like the specific, like how, like I feel like step-by-step breakdown.
Okay.
How
of how I write my stories?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I do personally is my stuff is very character driven. All of the notes I get is like all about how great my characters are. So for me, I come up with my solid characters first. And as an actor, that should be easy for you to do, Carson, because you can make them up in your mind, you know?
Right.
I'll make a little file for each of my characters and like put some of their attributes, whether that's what they look like, kind of car they drive, if it's, you know, appropriate for the character, what they dress like, who their family is, where they live, all that kind of stuff. And I get a very clear vision of them in my head. So before I wrote my first one, I just downloaded screenwriting software. And actually, when you download it, it's very easy to get it into the right format. And the words just kind of came. I mean, I know if you read other people's screenplays, which there's a database of them, like all the award-winning screenplays, they'll just make that public. So you can read through some really great scripts and just see how they do the scene descriptions. Or, you know, you can enroll in like a basic master class or something for screenwriting just to get the foundation of how you're supposed to technically do it, because they do want it to be in a specific format. But after you got that, you really just, if you have a clear vision in your mind of who your characters are, like I said before, like where you want them to go, where you want them to end up, what kind of conflict you want in there, then it's just a matter of sitting down and actually writing it out and seeing how they can get there. Then of course once you're finished, you're not really finished, because you have to do so many rereads and rewrites, and a scene you thought was just going to be hilarious just is like, this is so random, you gotta just delete it, or you gotta move it, or something. But it really is, for me at least, it was just as easy as carving out that time for myself to sit down and just do it.
Great, thank you.
I'm not lying, I promise.
I love that. Thank you, Carson. All right, last call. I love doing last call and then someone raises a hand. It just makes me feel good. But this is real. Last call.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Awesome. Well, Elise, any lasting things that you want to leave our audience with?
Oh, no, I mean, I think I said it all. I drove my certain points, as Carson said, like, just start. You guys are all so talented. I've seen so many of you grow up. If you have an idea for something, you should just do it. Reach out to the people that you think can support you and give you advice and mentor you, because people will. You know, we love you. You guys are awesome kids. For the adults that are on here, you're awesome adults. It's never too late to do any of that stuff. And I will say though, next week is Bert talking about getting a job at Disney, which I know a lot of you guys want to do. And then the week after that is Dana. And she's going to be talking about marketing your personal brand. And that is something that is very important for all of this stuff. Screenwriting, maybe not so much, because like I've bounced around to different genres. I don't really have to have a brand for that until I become, well known for all that. And people are knocking down the door for my scripts. But for acting, it's super important to know what your brand is, because that way you get your headshots to look that way. You know what roles to go after. But you might be surprised at what your brand is. It might be something that you don't see yourself as, but that's what everyone sees you as. Like, there was a point in my career, I kept getting cast as like demons and vampires. I mean, I think I'm nice, right? I don't know. But that's what people wanted from me. And it was really fun, actually. For business, it's important that your business has a brand. You can do lots of different things, but I think you're more successful if you really target what your brand is. So if you guys want to tune in to Bert's as well as Dana's, they're going to have some great words of wisdom for you on that stuff.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. Like Elise said, next week, Friday, 4 o'clock, we have Landing the Happiest Job on Earth with Bert Fulton. And then I think Dana's on here as well with Marketing Your Personal Brand. So I really hope to see you all. Tell everyone this is a free, we have no cap limit, come one, come all. Tell your friends how fun this is, because it is just a joy just to see each other even in this crazy time. We miss you all. Our fingers are all crossed that we can go back into the studio soon and see all of you soon. But thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. And thanks. Yeah.
Bye, guys. Good to see you.
Bye.